woman in California has now been accused of sexual misconduct. This will be interesting to see how this plays out. This is in the Los Angeles Times on March 8th by Melanie Mason. Assemblywoman Cristina Garcia, chair of the Legislative Women's Caucus, who has been at the forefront of the movement against sexual harassment in the state capitol, has herself become the subject of allegations of sexual misconduct. The Bell Gardens Democrat said she would participate fully in an investigation. She just fired immediately? Just for the accusation? Or we're gonna do due process? Politico reported Thursday the two men said Garcia made improper advances toward them. One, a former legislative staffer, said Garcia groped his back and buttocks and attempted to grab his crotch during a legislative softball game in 2014. He's wearing tight pants. He probably had it coming. The former staffer, Daniel Fierro, told his former boss, Assemblyman Ian Calderon, about the incident several weeks ago, his office said. Calderon then reported the incidents to the Assembly Rules Committee. Fierro told the Times he decided to speak out because he thought Garcia's behavior was at odds with the hashtag MeToo movement, which could harm the cause she was so closely associated with. I have female colleagues who have been through way worse than me, Fierro said. That conversation needs to be had. If their stories are being taken less seriously by people in the district because the messenger is not credible, that's a problem. In a statement, Garcia said the statements of the complaints only came to her attention on Thursday. She confirmed she did attend the legislative softball game in 2014, but added she has zero recollection of engaging in inappropriate behavior, which she said was inconsistent with her values. Every complaint about sexual harassment should be taken seriously, and I will participate fully in any investigation that takes place, Garcia said. You know, this is the thing. Did she do something inappropriate at a softball game? If she did, there needs to be an investigation and she should lose her job. Do women do inappropriate stuff? Absolutely. Have I had women do inappropriate stuff with me as an adult man? Absolutely. Is it as bad? I don't, like when a woman says or does something creepy to me, I'm not worried that she can overpower me or rape me, but it still doesn't make it any less awful that it happened to me. I might not be as scared, but I've had women be violent with me recently. I've had an ex-girlfriend be violent with me, and it's like, wow, it's crazy to see that kind of rage. And it's not even about like, oh, I'm a man, I can take it, I'm a tough guy or whatever. I could, she couldn't kick my ass. It's about that behavior is happening and you're having to deal with it. So, and this is the thing, since holding Harvey Weinstein accountable, that's been a very good thing. He's a serial rapist. He needs to go to jail for the rest of his life. Kevin Spacey, sounds like he's sexually assaulted people too. Louis C.K., I don't know that he's sexually assaulted people, but he's a fucking asshole to begin with. He's a dick. I called him out on Twitter a year and a half ago when I found out about it. All these comedy fans have said, all you comedians knew, why didn't you say anything? I did. I didn't do it to get credit or a parade or anything, but I spoke up because I thought it was bullshit that everyone thinks he's a hero when I found this out. What Louis C.K. did for sure, and people like, oh, he has a problem, he can't control himself. That's bullshit. He can control himself because he didn't. You notice there's no stories. He didn't, Louis C.K. didn't whip his dick out and whack off in front of any powerful female comics like Sarah Silverman or Amy Schumer. He did it to female comics that are lower on the ladder, like open micers or newer comics. It was a power play. It wasn't, oh, I can't control myself. He knew what he was doing. But then there's been some stuff where just people are just like what happened to TJ Miller. From what I read, it sounded like he had rough sex with a woman in college. It was adjudicated on campus and it was all done. And then she just spoke up, and then Comedy Central gets rid of his show. The Aziz Ansari article that I read by the woman that's accusing him She wanted to have, she wanted to have a celebrity boyfriend. She writes in the article, Aziz Ansari went down on me, then I went down on him, then he wanted to have sex with me, and I said no and he left. All right. He went down on you? You wrote that. So a man, he put his tongue on your vagina, and then you put his dick in your mouth. And weird, he wanted to have sex, but he didn't force himself. Maybe it was just a shitty date. And then you think he should be fired. And when Ashley Banfield called that woman out, this woman wrote in an email to Ashley Banfield, she's old and ugly. So it's good we're having this conversation, but if we're going to have this conversation, then let's have this goddamn conversation. And if some woman was fucking grabbing dudes' asses at a softball game, at a company softball game, she needs to be held accountable. But the whole and Sharon Stone released an article saying, look, Harvey Weinstein was awful, and that's good, but women that do the casting couch that are like, I want to sleep with this guy because it'll help my career, Sharon Stone was like, that's on you, and I would agree with that. If a guy blocks the door, forces himself on you, that's obviously awful. But if a guy says, hey, let's have sex, and you say no, and he says, let's have sex, and you say no, and he says, let's have sex, and you say yes, and he doesn't physically force his way, then that's on you. You can just say no and leave. Again, if he blocks the door, grabs you or anything, then that's assault. That's awful. But I mean, I lived with a woman when I was in my 20s, and I woke up at 3 a.m. and she was riding me. Now, what would happen if I said, let's say she was really powerful now. She was she was a politician, or she was famous, or she, ran a movie studio, or she was a CEO or something. What if I just came out now and said, she had sex with me. She didn't ask for my consent. I woke up at 3 a.m. She obviously was on top of me, riding me, having unconsensual sex. I could say that. I could claim that. Another female comic, one time I bent over and she walked up behind me, and it was at a party at Sundance, and she grabbed my ass and said, I'm inside you. And everybody laughed. I thought it was funny. I still think it's funny. But what if I came forward? She's a very popular comic. She's on a big sitcom right now. She's a friend of mine. I still think what she did at that time was funny. But what if I went, you know what, I want to take her down a peg. And I came out and said she did this to me and sexually assaulted me and humiliated me at a party at Sundance, and I just couldn't talk about it until now. I'm not undermining actual victims. Or demeaning actual victims. But when people do what the woman did with Aziz Ansari, that actually made me mad, because what that woman did, that's just a power play, and she just wants a celebrity. She's just mad that a celebrity wouldn't have sex with her, because if Aziz Ansari was the IT guy at her office, she wouldn't have gone after him. She went after him because he was famous. And so, and then when a guy is accused and there's no due process, he's just fired. A woman said it. Okay, there should be a due process, right? I'm not saying don't believe a woman or anyone that's been accused, but let's have due process. And women that are just using this as a power play, and it's just like, we're going to take down men, and some of them, in my opinion, are just angry Hillary supporters, that's actually really detrimental to real victims. Because for everyone who's just like, I'm mad that, Aziz Ansari didn't want to be my boyfriend, or TJ Miller, kicked me out of an improv troupe, so I'm going to take him down now that we've got all this steam with hashtag MeToo. The women that actually have, and men that have been sexually assaulted or sexually abused or sexually harassed and actually were afraid to come forward, and they're often told, oh, it's ridiculous, nobody believes you. So people who are just making a power play and just getting into some sort of gender battle, you're actually undermining actual victims, and that offends me. Again, this ex-girlfriend that was violent with me, I've had people dismiss it. Oh, Graham, you're a guy, you can handle it. And it's like, no, her behavior changed. I had to sleep in the bedroom with the door locked. I had to hide the knives. It was fucking terrifying. And if she just, as a guy, if she just starts pounding on me, and I just grab her arm just to stop her, and there's grab marks on her arm, the police arrest me. So I want to see how the hashtag MeToo movement, because I've mentioned this before. 1 in 6 men have been sexually assaulted by the time they're 18, and 40% of their abusers are women. I know so many people that were abused by women when they were children, men and women, sexually and physically assaulted by moms, stepmoms, sisters, aunts, babysitters, a lot. And we're not talking about that. It's just been only men are doing this. And I'm not excusing any of the awful shit that men have and are doing. But if we're going to hold everyone accountable and give all victims hashtag MeToo has no gender in it, then let's do it. Then let's do it. And I want to see how thorough this investigation is going to be. Is it going to be a real thorough investigation? Or is she just going to get gunned because someone accused her? Because that's happened. So, I want to read this. Senator Connie Leva, a Democrat from Chino, called the allegations very troubling. I have consistently voiced my strong opinion that any legislator under investigation by either the Assembly or Senate should take an immediate leave of absence until the review is completed, Leva said in a statement. As vice chair of the Women's Caucus, I will be asking that the membership of the caucus meet in the very near future to discuss the fate of Assemblymember Cristina Garcia. Yeah, she needs to take a leave of office. Because this is the thing. We need to talk about this as a society. What creates toxic masculinity? A lot of men have had a woman coerce them into sex. That's happened. And, oh, well, the guy, he didn't want to have sex. And then, his dick got hard, so of course he did. No, that's a physiological reaction. And why isn't there this outcry? There was just another story. A female high school teacher had sex with a 15-year-old boy. And when that happens, we as a society go, well, it's a guy or whatever. She's a woman in a position of power, manipulating a boy with sex. And as if she's abusing her power. If you just are an attractive young woman in your late 20s or 30s, there's plenty of 18-year-olds you can manipulate with your vagina. It's pretty easy to do. There's 28-year-olds and 38-year-olds you can manipulate with your vagina. Why do you need to do it with a minor? And when it happens, and this happens time and time again, why isn't there this outcry of women, women, women? When guys do bad things, the whole male gender is held accountable. Okay, and guys need to have more conversations with each other. We need to hold each other more accountable. Guys need to say, hey man, don't say that. Don't make those jokes or, whatever. Okay, why aren't women held as accountable as this? There was a woman who killed her 3-year-old son here in California. Another woman killed her family. Like when those stories come out, why don't we go, are all women held accountable? Every time you hear one of those stories of a woman killing her child? Story after story, there are more female high school teachers than male high school teachers. So guess what? There's more female high school teachers having sex with male students than male teachers having sex with female students. And when I was younger, I thought, oh man, it would have been awesome if I was 15 and a hot older teacher had sex with me. I used to say that when I was younger. I was dumb for saying that. As a grown man, I know that's really not good. You're manipulating and taking advantage of a child. And these 15-year-old boys that were manipulated by an adult woman, how healthy are their relationships with women going to be when they become 25 and 35 and on up? So these guys who spoke up, I hope they're telling the truth, because if they're lying just to take down a powerful person, then they're fucking assholes. These guys are assholes. But if these women actually did this, I'm glad some men are speaking up, because men were told we shouldn't. When we're abused, So, and more men have been abused by women than you are aware. Yeah. So, we'll see what happens with this. And I'd like to see if the hashtag MeToo movement is going to actually defend these guys the way they did women. My guess is some of them won't. Some of them will discard these guys. That's my guess. Thanks for watching the show.